Hey, welcome to this episode where we'll take a look at Deus Ex made by Storm and released in the year 2000. This game is considered one of the best games of all time, and it still gets referenced as one of the forebearers in the immersive sim genre. Why was it praised when it was released? Does it still hold up today? Does it even run on modern PCs? Deus Ex means a god from in Latin. A god from what? We'll look at all those things and do a thorough playthrough of the first level. Before we can play, we gotta have a working game, so let's talk technical first. I have the Game of the Year edition from Steam and it works straight up, but the resolution kept on resetting itself when I tried to change it. In the end, I ended up using something called Direct 3D 10 Renderer for Unreal Engine. It was easy to set up and doesn't change the base game in any way. What it does do though is quite impressive. Not only does it support higher resolutions, but it also makes the first generation Unreal Engine able to use more modern graphical technologies like HDR lighting, anti-aliasing and more. The link is in the description if you want to check it out. Enough with the technical stuff. This is where you start realizing that this is not a normal shooter. It's part RPG and the skill system lets you customize your character to your preferred playstyle. All these skills can be upgraded later. You get experience points by completing objectives and exploring the game world. For this run, my character will mainly focus on sneaking, but he can also use firearms. We'll try a little bit of everything. Now let's actually start the game. So pay attention, this is a cool introduction into the world of Deus Ex.
Your appointment to FEMA should be finalized within the week. I've already discussed the matter with the senator.
I take it he was agreeable?
He didn't really have a choice.
Has he been infected?
Oh yes, most certainly. When I mentioned that we could put him on the priority list for the ambrosia vaccine, he was so willing it was almost pathetic.
This plague, the rioting is intensifying to the point where we may not be able to contain it.
Why contain it? Let it spill over into the schools and churches. Let the bodies pile up in the streets. In the end, they'll beg us to save them.
I've received reports of armed attacks on shipments. There's not enough vaccine to go around, and the underclasses are starting to get desperate.
Of course they're desperate. They can smell their death, and the sound they'll make rattling their cage will serve as a warning to the rest.
I hope you're not underestimating the problem. The others may not go as quietly as you think. Intelligence indicates they're behind the problems in Paris.
A bunch of pretentious old men playing at running the world. But the world left them behind long ago. We are the future.
We have other problems.
UNATCO?
Formed by executive order after the terrorist strike on the statue. I have someone in place, though. I'm more concerned about Savage. He's relocated to Vandenberg.
Our biochem corpus is far in advance of theirs, as is our electronic sentience. And their ethical inflexibility has allowed us to make progress in areas they refuse to consider.
The augmentation project?
Among other things, but I must admit that I have been somewhat disappointed in the performance of the primary unit.
The secondary unit should be online soon. It's currently undergoing preparation and will be operational within 6 months. My people will continue to report on its progress. If necessary, the primary will be terminated.
We've had to endure much, you and I, but soon there will be order again. A new age. Aquinas spoke of the mythical city on the hill. Soon that city will be a reality, and we, crowned its kings, are better than kings. Gods.
That's quite the intro. A lot of information to take in, but it's great and it sets the stage nicely for what's to come and what kind of world we're in. I won't spoil anything from the story in this video because it's worth experiencing it for yourself. And besides, the game has several endings and NPCs react differently to what you do in the game, so it should be your own experience. We will, however, play through this entire mission and try out some different playstyles and talk about the game.
Heads up, JC. Your brother Paul is on his way to meet you at the dock. The NSF is raiding the island and shots have been fired. I repeat, find Paul. I will monitor your situation from HQ.
Welcome aboard. Paul, I thought you were in Hong Kong. Welcome to the Coalition, JC. I might as well start using your code name. Think I'd miss my brother's first day? Didn't think you'd have a choice. What's going on? The NSF. They hit one of our shipments. A few of them got away, but we trapped the rest in the statue. What are we waiting for? Looks like a textbook assault. The NSF took one of our agents hostage. The bots are holding the perimeter, but my orders are to hold back and send you in alone. I think someone high up wants to see how you handle the situation. All I've got with me is a pistol and an electric prod. I don't mind a test, but UNATCO better issue some hardware. Remember that we're police. Stick with the prod. It'll stun your opponents or knock them unconscious. A non-lethal takedown is always the most silent way to eliminate resistance. Just in case, though, Manderley wants you to pick an additional weapon. A sniper rifle, a GEP gun, or a mini crossbow.
The game gives us plenty of options, but I've decided to try to be stealthy first.
The crossbow. Sometimes you've got to make a silent takedown. Good thinking. With these tranquilizer darts, you'll have another non-lethal way to take down an enemy in addition to the prod. I get the idea. What's the first move? I'm going to give you a map of the island. If you can get to the North Dock, a UNATCO informant will give you a key to the statue doors. He responds to the code phrase, iron and copper. You could avoid a lot of fighting, though, if you found a back way to the statue. I'll see how it looks on shore. Your primary objective is the makeshift command center the terrorists have installed at the top of the statue, but don't forget about Agent Herman. We think he's being held on the ground floor. What are my orders when I reach the command center? Interrogate the leader. We don't yet know why the terrorists would risk an open assault.
Okay, let's take a look at the map he gave us so we have a bit of an overview of the situation. We're at the South Dock and the bomb is at the North Dock. We'll go straight across and drop by the UNATCO HQ on the way to the bomb. But we could solve this in any way we wanted. We could go in guns blazing, go straight for the terrorist leader, a lot of options there. Resources can be scarce, so let's get this little secret stash first.
What's your take on the situation, Corporal?
The bots have them bottled up, sir. We'd go right in if it weren't for the whole back order.
How'd they get one of our agents?
Gunter went rogue on us. When the order came, he wouldn't pull back. Now you get to bail him out.
If you're the kind of player who wants to know as much as possible about the characters in the world, Deus Ex has you covered, but never forces too much information on you. Many characters will tell you more if you talk to them again.
You just gonna stay here? There's been some activity at sea. I'm going to watch the coast. Why'd they bring you back to New York? I don't know what they have planned. I messed up an assassination attempt on one of the Triad leaders in Hong Kong. UNATCO pulled you out? It's a long story. You better head to the statue. Which Triad was UNATCO targeting? We'll talk about that later. How was your graduation? I want to hear what happened. I wish I could have come. At the time, I could have cared less that Mom and Dad came to mine, but it was a good thing. The UN threw a dinner in honor of me, the first nano-augmented agent. I didn't know that. Guess I must be old news. Dad made a toast. I don't know if you remember his old brown suit. A toast? That doesn't sound like our father. It was hard for him in front of the diplomats, but he savored every moment. Strange how proud he could be when so much was due to our augmentations. Yes, he was proud. I believe that much. It was nice to have done something for him and Mom. I wish someone could have been there for you. I'm used to being on my own. One can be too self-sufficient, I'm coming to believe.
NSF everywhere, JC. Your orders are to shoot on sight. A UNATCO informant on the North Dock can get you inside the statue. Look for a bum. Identify... Upper.
I intended to try to be sneaky for a little while, but this game is quite dynamic and things can happen.
If you want to make a covert approach, remember the Academy's stealth course. Stay out of their field of view, walk slowly to stay quiet, and crouch behind cover. Or if you have to get your hands dirty, remember that a headshot is a lethal takedown.
The inventory system is okay, it's a little clunky since the hotkeys doesn't work for me, but other than that, it's pretty packed with information. I have to mention that Deus Ex was the first game to have dynamic lip syncing, meaning a program that analyzed audio files and tried to match it with facial expressions. It doesn't look awesome today, but certainly says something about their ambition and inventiveness. Back to the story then. So, we're on Liberty Island, which is under attack by a terrorist organization called the NSF, short for the National Secessionist Forces. You'll find a ton of backstory and history on these guys, and the world in general, throughout the game in conversations, computers, and newspapers. And this is probably a good time to talk about the AI for a moment. It's not great. Patrol routes are very static, their detection area is unrealistically small, they get stuck in objects and run into situations where they'll meet their certain doom. Case in point, a few moments ago with the patrol bot. Regarding stealth, during the first few hours with Deus Ex, I thought it was broken. It was not clear to me when I was detected, and a lot of times I couldn't knock out enemies, and it would require multiple hits which gave them time to fire at me or run away. And the crossbow just made them attack me for a few seconds, then turn, run and make noise for a bit before falling unconscious. It was frustrating, but after a while I got the hang of it, and I started to understand how stealth really worked. It's still not a great stealth game, but maybe it doesn't have to be, seeing as it allows for such a broad spectrum of playstyles. In my opinion, Mankind Divided and Human Revolution does it better, even when taking age into consideration.
Freight base is under lockdown till the danger's gone, Agent Denton.
Right. How you guys holding up?
UNETCO Command made us pull back, I guess for Gunther's sake. What's the deal? We're ready to go in.
We're taking a minimum force approach. We're cops, after all.
Ask me. I think we should frag them all. You trespass on UNETCO property, you get pumped full of lead.
When due process fails us, we really do live in a world of terror.
Thought you nanowogs were supposed to be badass killing machines. Guess I was wrong.
Guess so.
Some advice. You get out there, you're gonna have to tangle with some real sons of bitches. Best thing is to pick them off from 50 or 100 paces with a scope. I scored an extra one from a couple of thugs we dropped down by the dock. You can have it for 700 credits. I also picked up some 10mm ammo and some crossbow darts. Say 200 for one and 60 for the other.
Shouldn't you turn that stuff over to the quartermaster?
Sure, I will. As long as Command has the rest of us on parade drill, someone might as well put this hardware to use.
Here's 60 for the tranquilizer darts.
So much for that minimum force approach.
So this is pretty much what you spend your money on in this game: weapons, ammo and weapon modifications.
Welcome aboard, Agent.
You'll be back here several times in the game, so be sure to check all the places for resources every time. We could hack the key code with our multi-tool because we don't know the code, but it's an inside joke for a lot of people who work for Looking Glass Studios and studios influenced by them. So the first code in their games is always 0451. Rumor has it that was the code to Looking Glass's office. You'll sometimes find these data cubes laying around. They can contain useful information, and in this case we got a username and password for a security system. As you can see, when logging in or hacking the computer, we can do some pretty cool stuff, like disabling security systems, or in some cases turning the security against our enemies. Let's talk about influences. Deus Ex has many unique ideas, but it also stands on the shoulders of giants. I want to point out Half-Life. They're very different games in many aspects, but Half-Life had such a huge impact when it was released in '98 and changed gaming forever. Especially how stories were told and shown. There were no cutscenes during gameplay, and the player was supposed to be firmly grounded in its character Gordon Freeman. Deus Ex replicates this in the way it tells its story and how you take in the world. Some of the games influenced by Deus Ex are obviously the later iterations of Deus Ex, the Dishonored series, the Bioshock series, Stalker and Prey, the one by Arcane Studios released in 2017. They all take the ideas introduced by Deus Ex and refine them even more. If you like those kind of games and haven't played them all, go play them. We're about to face off against one of the security bots. We have to employ some new tactics, so let's try the EMP grenade, but we'll stick it on the wall like a mine.
The NSF put a commercial-grade security bot in this area. You can either avoid its patrol route, or, if you're feeling lucky, try and take it out with the EMP grenades or explosives. I wouldn't recommend taking it on with small arms.
This time let's try the crossbow with tranquilizer darts on this guy. Unless you score a perfect headshot, it'll take a while before he falls asleep. To avoid him alerting his fellow guards, we'll make sure he goes down a little faster. I don't have enough lockpicks to open this chest. We could blow it up if we found some explosives, but let's leave it. We'll sneak over where the camera and turret can't see us and log into the computer using the information we found earlier. I want to use that turret against the guards inside if possible. Someone saw me and they've activated the alarm. They'll be running into our new friendly turret any second now.
Pig.
We could definitely enter the building in front here right now, but I want to continue on towards the back as we planned. This guy has a sniper rifle that could one-shot us. I want to stun him before he notices us, so the gas grenade seems like a good option here. This game is quite deep in that it tackles themes that resonate with our own world, sometimes directly, sometimes metaphorically, and could be open to interpretation. It has a religious undertone, but the messages it sends go far beyond that. A few obvious nods to religion is the cover art. A beam of light shines down from heaven, down on JC. JC is short for Jesus Christ, and his brother Paul, I presume, is the disciple called Saul in Hebrew and Paul in Latin. Jesus called him Brother Paul, even though they were not real brothers. The vaccine to the great plague that is causing world-spread chaos is called ambrosia, which in Greek mythology was nectar for the gods, giving immortality and eternal youth. And as mentioned before, Deus Ex is Latin and short for Deus Ex Machina, meaning a god from the machine. I promise to keep this spoiler-free, but I can say that this is certainly true in many ways when it comes to the story of the game. It also tells us that augmented people have become very powerful and can have godlike powers. This translates into two separate issues. Firstly, it creates a class-based society where those with money and power can get augmentations. Perhaps a look into our own future, or maybe just a way to get us to think about the differences between rich and poor. Secondly, those with older augmentation technologies feel obsolete and useless. I'd say this is a metaphor for age and the coming of the new generation. This has probably been true for all of mankind's history, but seeing it in this light could make someone think.
It all happened an hour ago. The barge docked and the NSF moved right on in, offloading the cargo into speedboats. Our undercover man, Harley Philbin, should be somewhere out on the docks now.
To avoid the firefight, let's take out both these guys silently with the charger prod. By the way, a little fun fact. The New York skyline in the background here is missing the World Trade Center, and this game was made in the year 2000. This game is very heavy on conspiracy theories being part of its world, and because of the whole missing Twin Towers thing, has even created its own little conspiracy. Before we talk to our contact, we have to check out this sunken ship here. It has some weapon upgrades, which is something you always want to collect. Weapon modification stack, so you can create some really powerful weapons if you want.
About time you showed up. Iron and copper. The statue is copper on an iron frame, right? Password's enough, pal. Don't think you know something about the lady I don't. My dad did tours out here. I heard that you can get me inside. Depends. You get your man out, take back the statue, whatever. But I know the commander and I don't want to see him get hurt. Here's a picture so you don't make a mistake. You can trust me. I'll take your word. Here's the key to the front entrance. Commander's not much of a soldier. He'll surrender as soon as he sees you. I need him alive because he's my main contact at the NSF. If he's dead, I don't have much of a business. Thanks. You with Philbin?
I get a cut for bringing him over.
Tell me what you know about the NSF operation.
I'm not that high level. The more elite troops, they're the ones that took over the ship and unloaded it into speedboats. I think we're supposed to be a diversion.
A ship?
That's all I know. The commander gave me a 10mm clip, a box of 30-06 ammo, and some crossbow darts and said keep your head down. Like I'm gonna take on your NATCO troops. Want 'em? You can have the clip for 175, the 30-06 for 300, and the darts for 50. But if I was you, I'd avoid a head-on attack altogether and not even use the key Philbin got. I'd go in the statue from the back. Less security that way.
I'll give you 50 for the darts.
The commander's the whole reason my neighborhood turned into a war zone. Somebody should stick him full of these things like a roast pig.
Characters certainly have different opinions and motives in this game. It's a good thing and creates a more believable world. Anyways, we have gotten more information and it seems like entering the statue from the back somewhere is a good option. Let's talk about how Deus Ex came to be. Ironstorm was created in 1996 by a few people like John Romero and Tom Hall, two of the legendary id Software founders, which revolutionized games with games like Wolfenstein 3D, Doom and Quake. Ironstorm developed 6 games during its 9 years in existence: Dominion, Storm over Gift 3, Daikatana, Deus Ex, Anachronox and Thief Deadly Shadows. Warren Spector was hired in 1997 and was sold on the job by John Romero, who offered him the chance to make the game of his dreams with a big budget and no creative interference. No wonder he accepted. If you want to know more about this, I recommend you check out the book Masters of Doom. It's really good.
Ooh.
This guard is all alone, so he can make some noise. Let's try the shotgun.
Is someone there?
This power box must have been damaged in the raid. Don't cross through the arcs. I'm also picking up an EMP field here. If you're not careful, it'll suck away your bioelectrical energy.
There are quite a few environmental puzzles like this one in Deus Ex, and in almost all cases it can be solved with different tools. Either way, exploration always pays off and we get a reward for doing so. This seems like a good place to enter the statue. Maybe we can surprise a few guards up here too. After finishing this mission, you have to enter the UNATCO HQ for a debriefing. We're not gonna do that in this video, but I want to talk about it. When the game was released, this was one of the places that blew people away. Not because it's quite large, not because you're free to explore in a peaceful in-between mission area, but because you get to see the consequences of your action. NPCs will react differently depending on how you handle the mission. For instance, if you kill the terrorist leader instead of capturing him, the regular troops will applaud you, but your boss will yell at you and deduct your pay. If you don't rescue Gunther, the captured agent, you'll be notified that he slipped out on his own. Your pay will be deducted and major characters will react to it. One of the minor things that always gets mentioned regarding this is if you walk into the women's bathroom and there's a lady in there, she tells you to get out and says she'll inform your boss. She does, and your boss will also comment on this. All of this was mind-blowing to many gamers in 2000, but certainly not for RPG fans that were used to games reacting to player choices, like in Fallout or Baldur's Gate. In those classic RPGs, there could be a game-changing moment that could alter the game in big ways. In Deus Ex, it's a minor thing, because you always end up with the same linear progression. It was still impressive to see a AAA quote-unquote shooter do this though. On one of the city levels, you can break through a basement window to infiltrate a house. When you return to that level later in the game, someone has fixed the window and installed iron bars, so you can't enter the same way again. I thought that was a pretty cool moment. It's time to enter the statue. Just one more guard and we're in. We'll try to rescue Gunther before we go after the terrorist leader. I don't think I played Deus Ex since the early 2000s, so I was a little worried on how it would hold up. I had fond memories of the game, but they were a bit vague. The latest iterations of Deus Ex, however, I really liked, and I was afraid that upon returning to the original one, it would show its cracks. It does take some time to get used to the gameplay and feel of the game, so that definitely showed its age. The stealth is not great, the shooting is not great, but as I mentioned earlier, it's the way the game lets you do all of these things that makes up for it. The world, the soundtrack, the story and atmosphere are the driving forces of this game, and I could not stop playing it all the way to the end. It's still a great game once you get back on the horse, and I have to say that Mankind Divided and Human Revolution really does stay very close to the original in every way possible, much more than I could remember. Let's talk a bit about the development and the reception of the game. So the game runs on the first generation Unreal Engine developed by Tom Sweeney, the founder of Epic Games. Other notable games on the same engine is obviously the first Unreal game, Unreal Tournament and Clive Barker's Undying. The engine was very successful and even id Software's John Carmack praised its technical ambition. In later years, Warren Spector said he was very happy with choosing the engine as it fulfilled most of the technical needs for Deus Ex, and it saved a lot of resources on not developing their own engine, instead redirecting manpower to other fields of expertise. Deus Ex was commercially successful, receiving several awards and praise in the gaming publications at the time of its release. In later years, it's become a cult classic, and it's easy to understand why when you see how influential the game was and how it pushed games forward towards player choices and consequences. There's a quote of Warren Spector saying, "My secret goal with Deus Ex was to shame other developers." Hacking in this game is pretty boring. Just click the hack button and wait. Once you're in, you have a limited time to do what you want to do, then log out. I like the hacking minigames in other titles like Bioshock or the later Deus Ex games way more than this. Anyways, let's get the door open and talk to Gunther.
Glad you're not hurt, Agent.
Command should not have left us to be surrounded.
Risk is part of the job. I think you lucked out this time.
Agent Navarra and I were ready to go in, but for no reason they said pull back. I do not retreat. Please give me a weapon and move out of the way.
First thing is to get you out of here. I'll handle the enemy.
Excuse that I have forgotten your brother Paul Denton and the infinite power of nano-augmentation.
I just can't spare any arms. Please retreat to a safe location.
Go ahead. Advance up the stairs to the command center at the top. I will take my rusty metal bones and sweep away into the junk pile.
It's pretty clear that Gunther feels like yesterday's news. His mission was cancelled before he got started, he was captured by the enemy and rescued by us, the next generation augmented agent, and we told him to get back to the base while we clean things up. And maybe worst of all, his physical appearance is quite grotesque, which was the price he paid for his augmentations when he got them installed. We, on the other hand, look like a normal human being and we're way more powerful. The dynamic with Gunther during the game is quite interesting, but no spoilers here. We're almost at the top of Lady Liberty and the enemy can't have much reinforcements now, so we can go in guns blazing.
Did they find the shipment?
Yeah, we got... I saw somebody.
Take
Pig.
Oh.
Gun is reestablished.
Let's talk to the terrorist leader and find out why they stole the vaccine.
Some news, JC. The NSF targeted a shipment of the plague vaccine Ambrosia. We can't locate it. The leader will surrender when you reach... Easy. We want you to take this one alive and conscious. Find out what you can about the shipment, then turn him over to one of the troopers.
Don't shoot. I surrender.
So you think you know better than FEMA what to do with this month's Ambrosia shipment?
You're too late. It's on its way back to the people, and you can't do a damn thing about it.
Tell me about the shipment, and I'll order the troops to pick you up as a prisoner instead of a corpse.
Ask away. We already won this round.
Where are you taking it?
We're just giving ordinary people the same chance to survive as the bureaucrats in Washington.
You'll have to unload New York because the choppers would spot you at sea.
I think the government made the plague on purpose to get rid of the population growth.
Well done. I will pass on your orders to the troopers. Report back to base on the west side of the island. Mission complete.
Just answer the question.
Don't believe me? It's all in the numbers. For 100 years, there's been a conspiracy of plutocrats against ordinary people.
Do you have a single fact to back that up?
Number one, in 1945, corporations paid 50% of federal taxes. Now they pay about 5%. Number two, in 1900, 90% of Americans were self-employed. Now it's about 2%.
So?
It's called consolidation. Strengthen governments and corporations, weaken individuals. With taxes, this can be done imperceptibly over time.
You'd cut through them like a hot knife through butter.
I guarantee you that the interrogation staff at UNATCO will not be as forbearing as I am.
Yeah, the secret police. You're just bullies for a completely illegitimate government in Washington.
We will locate that shipment one way or another.
The entire executive branch is handpicked. 19 of the last 23 U.S. presidents have been members of the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is financed by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Don't tell me.
That's a think tank. Anyone can become a member.
But not everyone does. That's why they call it the secret government. You can't fight ideas with bullets.
To me, this was a defining moment of Deus Ex. It shows the moral ambiguity of the factions in the game. Who is the real bad guy? He makes some good points, but it also spirals us into a sea of conspiracies. It's fun stuff and I really like it. I hope you liked it too, because that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and any feedback is welcome.